All right, everybody. We appreciate your patience. We've been having some technical problems here today, and we are working around it various ways. I hope this is coming through the way it should. Rob Schneider, he's proven his friendship to me today because we've had these frustrating problems, and he's been very kind, and he's sat around waiting for us. He's joining us in just a second. Check him out on Woke Up America on Fox Nation, as well on X, Rob Schneider, Schneider, and everyone knows Rob Schneider, actor, comedian, sometimes freedom fighter, and of course the movie is Daddy-Daughter Trip. Go get it now. It is on Amazon. All right, and we'll be back after a little break here with our friend Rob Schneider. Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say. We all know the value of a good night's sleep. We feel better, look better, have more energy to spare, but you could be missing out on all of those benefits if you're sleeping on sheets that are too hot or too cold or just plain uncomfortable. I have the solution. Cozy Earth bedding. Cozy Earth is the softest and most comfortable sheets, blankets, loungewear, and more. They use premium viscose from highly sustainable bamboo, and we sleep in them regularly. I wear their t-shirts. Susan wears their pajamas. Cozy Earth bedding comes with a 100-night sleep trial, which means you have up to 100 nights to sleep on them, wash them, try them out. If you're not in love, just return them within 100 days for a full refund. Susan and I love them. In fact, we have Cozy Earth sheets on our bed right now, and they made a huge difference in our sleep. If you've never tried Cozy Earth, we have some awesome news. You can save up to 35% off Cozy Earth right now. But hurry, this offer will not last. Go to CozyEarth.com, enter my promo code DREW at checkout for up to 35% off on your first order. That is CozyEarth.com, promo code DREW, CozyEarth, CozyEarth.com, code DREW. Are you one of the millions of American women and men dealing with premature hair thinning and hair loss? Or maybe you're scared about inheriting that thinning look because it runs in your family? Start 2024 with a real solution that delivers results without the harsh side effects or unwanted chemicals and no need for prescription. Provia uses a safe natural ingredient, Procapil, to effectively target the three main causes of premature hair thinning and hair loss. Susan has been using Provia for months and she loves it.
I'm so happy because Provia is helping me grow longer, stronger, and shinier hair, especially up on top.
In fact, Provia was created by the founder of Genucel, the makers of our favorite skincare products, so it is no surprise that she has seen amazing results. Right now, new customers save over 50% plus free shipping. Every introductory package includes a full 60-day supply of Provia serum for daily use, plus the Provia Super Concentrate for faster, more noticeable results. Don't wait. Order now to save an extra 10% and get free shipping at proviahair.com/Drew. That's PROVIAHAIR, proviahair.com/DREW. We are here today. I'm laughing because my friend Rob Schneider has been so cooperative and patient with us as we work around this thing, and he's entertaining me even while we prepare for this thing. Let's bring Rob in here, Caleb. Rob Schneider, you can see him said Rob Schneider, Schneider. The movie is Daddy-Daughter Trip. You can get it on Amazon. What else do you want people? Woke Up America on Fox Nation. Where else do you want people to go, Rob?
They can just, Daddy-Daughter Trips is, I appreciate the help. If download it on any of the platforms where you can download things. And it's we still sell DVDs at Walmart, believe it or not.
What?
I know people, they haven't thrown the DVDs out yet, but we can still buy one. And I'd like to thank Caleb, by the way. Gen Z, they may not know which bathroom to use, but boy, they know how to fix technology and they know how to use the computer.
Yeah, I know. And he was giving us crap about being boomers. And as we rolled into this thing, Rob was running away and going to pay the plumber, and then he was going to make coffee. It's like poor Rob is trying to maintain his life while we
I did fix a toilet the other day. I'm so proud of myself. I just said,
Good.
I can't rely on a plumber. And I said, because the inside of the toilet was leaking. And I,
Mm,
I don't want to waste water. I live in the desert, and I know that the Bush administration, the Biden administration wants to cut off our water supply. So I
mm.
said, okay, I'm gonna just fix this myself. So I just went to the place. I took a picture, on the old
Yeah.
phone, the boomer that I am.
Mm, mm.
Went to the Ace Hardware down the street, and I just bought that thing. And I know this is not very boomer like. I read the instructions.
Wow. Impressive.
I was able to fix it. I mean, they really make it simple for dummies like myself.
It's not very man-like either. As a male, we tend to sort of directions of any type,
Yeah.
whether it's trying to find a place or we don't dig it.
Don't you miss the Thomas Guide?
Nobody knows what we're talking about. I do not miss the Thomas Guide. It was literally you'd have to go to 3 to 4 pages just to get in the right zone where you started looking for the address you were looking for.
It was the original
silly.
GPS.
Yeah.
I remember I had to drive Jay Leno to in 1985, drive Jay Leno to some comedy event he was doing in San Jose from the airport. And I'm breaking out the Thomas Guide. I just go down to 280, make a left on Adams Street, go down to 5th Street, make a right, and then it's right there, 5th and so it made you. I mean, the thing is, if you lose your phone now, Drew, can you even make it home?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. I certainly would be in a state of disturbed the whole way. That's weird.
Yeah, the GPS went out on my Tesla. The whole thing went, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've lived here for 3 years, and I'm absolutely useless. So that's what I think when they're dumbing us down, they're also trying to make it so we can't even get back to the house, that we're not allowed to heat or use, gas stoves anymore.
So I know that's just so weird to me, but the other thing we were talking about before the mics heated up here was that you might bring back Real Rob. And any of you that like Rob on Gutfeld, you'll know Jamie Lissau, who was his co-star on the Real Rob and writer on the Real Rob show. I just think the time is ripe to bring you guys back. It would be incredible to have you guys. I'm guessing your and your wife's relationship has changed across time, and so it'd be interesting to explore that on Real Rob too.
It has. It's amazing. We've been able to managed to stay together it's 14 years now. And
wow.
That's in this day and age, it's a minor miracle. And the struggles of relationships more than anybody.
That's true. And for those who don't know, she is not from this country. Rob
She's from Mexico.
He essentially went down and robbed Mexico City to kidnap somebody.
Well, that's a reverse kidnapping. Now, the thing is, though, the cultural appropriation, which for some reason has a bad rap now, to me, it's ridiculous. The idea, I think, was originally is to take the best of all cultures to improve your culture. Like we take spaghetti.
Yeah.
You take, the idea of pasta from Italy, from Mexico. I took my wife, my gardener. You make your life better, right?
I'm not sure if I'm okay endorsing what you just said or not, but I do like we live in the Southwest, man, and if you didn't have a close relationship with Mexicans and Central Americans and the Mexican culture, I don't know where you'd be. You wouldn't be in this part of the country.
We do have a border problem, and the thing is, we really do need immigration. The idea that
yes,
and we do, because we're not making babies like we used to, and as you can attest, the American sperm count is down about 59%. When they say you're not the man your grandfather was, you're not.
Yeah, they mean it.
They not. Yeah. And it's I think that does not portend well into the future. So let's talk about that. I by the way, when I was doing your intro, I said Rob Schneider, freedom fighter, which is can you imagine that's how you're being thought of now? Which is like, when we first met, you were doing what was one of your Men
early
Behaving
films?
Badly? I was just doing these raunchy TV shows and movies. But I got to tell you, I don't want to be, Drew. I don't want to be a medical freedom fighter, free speech warrior. I'm a de facto intellectual. I'm not a real intellectual. I'm filling a void that for people who are afraid of losing their tenure at a university, or
Yeah.
they're losing. Like I had a friend of mine who's much more. I mean, I feel like I'm the dumbest person in my family because I have doctors and and nurses who are all because they're Filipino and they have to be.
What? Filipino nurses? That's so weird.
I know, isn't that bizarre? And
That's
that's
crazy.
why that's the whole thing about how diversity is so crazy and so stupid. The idea of it is like everybody wants diversity, but when it comes to your football team, you don't want a Filipino place kicker. Why? Because their legs are as short as mine, and they can kick maybe 8 feet, not even 8 yards. So you want to have a guy who's like some soccer player from Yugoslavia or Croatia, who can kick something 65 yards. So it goes out the window. But at the same time, Filipinos, you also don't want a 7-foot basketball player trying to find with his really long hands and fingers trying to find your vein. You want a little Filipino person like me to do it.
You guys are good.
So people don't complain about we need more Croatian 7-foot players who can be nurses. So I think
we are so very weird on ethnicity and race. I was talking to Adam about something the other day, and that him as an Italian in the 60s and 70s was an outsider. He was not he did not have the right hair. He did not have the right heritage. He was an outsider. And I read a scathing indictment from Benjamin Franklin, who was complaining about, it was really, when you read it now, it's just awful to read, that white America was being, what did he call it? He sort of deluded. And he was talking about non-Saxon Germans. That the non-Saxon Germans were ruining America's racial purity or something.
Well, it's funny, but the same
we've always
problems,
been weird.
If you look at like Jeff Deist, who's a very good writer, and I met him through the Mises Institute, wrote a really good book about cronyism, and it's from the 19th century. If you think we have problems now, go back to the Civil War, where people we lost 600,000 of them, but most of them died not in battle. By the way, they died from disease in the in the swamps and things. Yeah. And but going back to the de facto freedom fighter, it's like I just want to be a comedian, but at the same time, I can't ignore these things because you have to be like when you and I can't have a conversation without questioning literally the shutting down of society and the closing of tens of thousands of businesses, restaurants that will never come back. I mean, we'll talk about the Jimmy Kimmel, Aaron Rodgers thing in a bit, but the fact that a comedian and a doctor, a certified, knowledgeable person like yourself with years of experience in clinical psychology, and that's the thing I really respect about you, Drew, is that Dr. Drew, was that even though you were on TV, the thing that really, why I wanted to become friends with you and use you for your knowledge was because you still practiced. And as a guy who shows up at TV shows and meets people, and I meet doctors on these shows, they stop practicing because it doesn't become part of their main business.
I can't imagine it. I can't imagine because I'm getting out in public and talking about medicine, and you have to have experience all the time. Like right now, I'm treating a shit ton of COVID. I'm treating it, and I'm getting. I know the variant that's going around. I get it. It's not a big deal. So I can speak from a place of experience, which is what medicine is. The literature, the science doesn't catch up for a long time. So it doesn't. And it's often wrong too, by the way. That's the part that people don't get.
That's what was so disappointing. From what I understood about you was it was so disappointing to not uptake the newest information in a very practical way immediately when certain things we began to discover and learn very quickly. And that's when we discovered, it's when you and I unfortunately discovered there was another agenda at play that seemed much bigger. And unfortunately, when individual medical decisions can no longer be made between patient and doctor, but between industry and government, there seems to be I don't know any other word for it, but a lessening of freedom. And the way to describe that is tyranny, a medical tyranny. And you and I got into that quickly.
Yeah. Well, and we were not even that explicit with it. I just remember the interview that got us both in trouble with the New York Times during COVID. We both just said, calm down. Your bodies are strong. You can strengthen them more. Think about whether you need a vaccine or not.
Yeah.
You may or may, we were just very reasonable.
It was.
And we got attacked. Last interview we did, you go back in October, we can look at this, where we went line by line through that article, and every line was wrong.
Right.
100% was wrong.
But
that's the insanity about the press. They can get everything wrong, literally everything, and nobody says, I'm sorry.
And there's no apologies. I mean, there was really something that was, that's what, thank God for Elon Musk. I mean, I'm not a supporter of him being able to put thousands of low atmosphere satellites that could be misused by our government into the, just because he's a super rich guy. But thank God that he bought Twitter, because it did allow for things like the recently retired highest paid employee in our government, Dr. Anthony Fauci, said, I don't recall 100 times. You don't want somebody who doesn't recall being questioned in a hearing about something that he was able to more or less single-handedly shut down, not just the United States, but the Western world. That's way too much power for an individual, for any industry to have. And it's really interesting because, and like I said, when I talk about de facto intellectualism, it's just, I think we're all ignorant, just on different subjects. And I tried to educate myself to what was happening in the medical freedom movement and in the free speech movement. And one of the things that was very, very telling was how we were shut down just for asking and being reasonable. But because we dared to even bring up and question something as it was being, as the doors were closing on debate and discussion, I called a friend of mine who worked at the NIH, and he said, please don't quote me. And this is a guy who works with NASA I got lucky that I met him through my dad, who had diabetes. He's gone on to become one of the leading, foremost, the intellectuals, but he's a professor of medicine, but he's also one of the leading researchers in the world on diabetes. And unfortunately, even though years and years of research, at the end of the day, the thing that they've really learned, besides a new device that you could put on so you don't constantly have to prick your finger, and God bless them, because for children to have to do that is very painful. So that has been a big thing, so they can look at their phone, and God bless them for that. However, he was hired by the NIH pretty early, I think in April of 2020, to start looking at the molecule of this new SARS-CoV-2. And for people who said it doesn't exist, it does exist. It is a real thing.
Of course.
And so, and he said to me, interestingly, his wording was, don't quote me, but receptacle 26 looks a little sticky. And as a layman, I went like, well, what does that mean? He said, well, it don't quote me, but it does seem that it could be not, it doesn't seem like that happens in nature. It's been modified in some way.
Yes.
And so that was the beginning of how could this guy, who's a professor of medicine, feel like, and he's actually working at the NIH, he doesn't feel like he can say anything? It's because the government has decided that they know this course of action. And when the best and brightest of us, who is clearly not me, are silenced and feel like their position, to continue doing what they do, which is, government funded and state funded research and pharmaceutical research paid for. If you step out of that, it just goes to show that there really is a flaw in our system that needs to be checked so that we can.
That's one.
There needs to be a firewall. And that's why, I don't believe there's no candidate that I think is perfect, but I think the only candidate for running for president that it talks about a firewall between industry and
Kennedy does.
And our agencies, which are captured by industry, like the FCC, the FDA, and the FCC actually, and the CDC especially. It's crazy. Like, for instance, the fact that and we can talk about this, the lunacy, and thank you for having me on to mention this, of that the children's scheduled vaccine, and is we can debate each one, but you can say you don't need. There is no evidence. There certainly is no abundance of evidence that suggests that we need to give this COVID-19 mRNA gene technology to children. But yet,
well, not only that, we are major outliers in the international community having done so. I think only one other country did so. And in fact, the UK has ended its booster campaign entirely, and they ended it again for children quite some time ago. And now we're doubling down. It's very odd. But Rob, I got to take a little break here. Hang on a second. Two things before on the way out here. One is back to what Fauci was saying during his interview in the House yesterday.
Yeah.
He actually came clean about the 6 feet social distancing, that it came out of nowhere. It was invented from whole cloth. It was absolutely invented. It says there's no evidence anywhere ever that 6 feet did anything. And he actually admitted that, which I appreciate yesterday. And the other thing is, you mentioned we're going to discuss the Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Kimmel little tiff there. We'll do that after the break, okay?
Okay.
All right, take a little break. Be right back with the great Rob Schneider. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make a resolution that's easy to keep and delivers immediately on its promise. With Genucel Skincare, you can turn back the clock and look 5, 10, even 15 years younger. And right now, Genucel Skincare is celebrating 2024 with its New Year's sales event. Save over 60% off all of our favorite Genucel products with one of our customized skincare routine packages. Say goodbye to those fine lines in the forehead and around your corner of your eyes, sagging jawline, dark marks, skin redness, even under eye bags. Leave them in 2023. Genucel works for women and men. It's safe for all skin types and perfect for skin of any age. Plus, with its immediate effects, Genucel promises results that will make you smile. Guaranteed, or 100% of your money back. Start your new year look off right with one of our custom Genucel skincare bundles right now at Genucel.com/Drew. Use our special code Drew at checkout for extra savings off your order today. And remember, every order placed is automatically upgraded to free shipping. Don't wait. That is Genucel.com/Drew, GENUCEL.com/DREW. Well, most of my career, I've been urging people to kick habits, change habits. Well, this time I'd like to suggest getting into the habit of adding Paleo Valley grass-fed bone broth protein to your daily nutrition regimen. Here's CEO Autumn Smith.
It's made from cows with 100% grass-fed and finished, and bones. They're bones rather than the hide. Most bone broth or collagen powders are made from hides or hooves, but ours is actually made from the bone because it'll contain additional nutrients. Bone broth is a way to bring back those nutrients, those minerals, and there's glucosaminoglycans, and then there's collagen, which helps us prevent wrinkles and joint pain and actually heals our gut. There's gelatin, and there's just all of these ingredients that the modern diet has kind of left by the wayside.
Susan and I have been mixing the chocolate-flavored bone broth literally into our coffee every morning for months, and we've noticed a difference in our energy, appearance of our hair, skin, nails. Susan's particularly very happy with this. The bioavailable protein also helps us feel satiated. That's the part I'm happy with. Paleo Valley bone broth also comes in vanilla and pure unflavored and can easily be added to your coffee, smoothies, yogurt. Go to drdrew.com/paleo, P-A-L-E-O, for 15% off your first order. Again, that is drdrew.com/paleo. I think everyone knows the next medical crisis could be just around the corner, whether it comes in the form of another pandemic or something much more routine like a tick bite. You and your family need to be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. You know the Wellness Company. We have their physicians on like Dr. McCullough frequently. The Wellness Company and their doctors are medical professionals you can trust. And their new medical emergency kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy.
It's a safety net. It's an insurance policy
absolutely.
That you hope you're not going to
100%.
need, but if you need it, you sure as heck are going to wish you had it if you need it.
Be ready for anything. This medical emergency kit contains an assortment of life-saving medications, including ivermectin, Z-Pak. The medical emergency kit provides a guidebook to aid in the safe use of all these life-saving medications. From anthrax to tick bites to COVID-19, the Wellness Company's medical emergency kit is exactly what you need to have on hand to be prepared. Rest assured, knowing that you have emergency antibiotics, antivirals, and antiparasitics on hand to help you and your family stay safe from whatever life throws at you next. Go to drdrew.com/TWC. That is drdrew.com/TWC. To get 10% off today, just click on that link. Yeah, I know. I know. It's crazy.
Go. Did it.
All right, we are back with the great Rob Schneider. Follow him on Twitter at Rob Schneider. And before the break, we were talking about the little row between Jimmy Kimmel and Aaron Rodgers, which I actually don't really understand what happened, except that I saw that Aaron Rodgers was sort of talking out of school. He was they were talking about Epstein and the people on the list. And for some reason, Jimmy's name came up, and that became problematic for Jimmy, and then it became this big thing.
Well, first
How did you
of
experience all that?
Well, I remember Jimmy Kimmel attacking Aaron Rodgers because Jimmy Kimmel's was pro-vaccinator and well, like most people believe in it and never questioned it, but I think people have awakened to the fact that there is no drug that's 100% safe 100% of the time for 100% of the people, and the idea that like for some people to get injured, well, it's a very small percentage. Yeah, but for that person who's injured, it's 100%.
Yeah.
And so he was not upfront, Aaron Rodgers, about because he believed in natural immunity, which as we have been now, it's very obvious. So they try to attack natural immunity. It's like trying to attack, nature. It's just like, this is just a thing. So suddenly what we have learned in medicine is no longer factual anymore.
It's like attacking nutrition or something. It's like, this happens. And now it's pretty clear it's probably better than vaccine, though we went back and forth on that one too. I don't understand, by the way, why one of the things, Rob, that I'm really mystified by, two things that I'm still just scratching my head about. One is the incredible push for young people to be vaccinated when in the Omicron era, there's almost no risk of COVID, and there is a finite risk of the vaccine that's well established. And by the way, we have another vaccine option out there called Covaxin. That's a whole virus, non-mRNA vaccine.
Yeah.
That's excellent, probably better than the mRNA vaccines. And no one mentions it. It's weird.
Well,
that's weird to me. That's back to RFK stuff.
Well, you have the capture of by industry. We have a capture of agencies, and all of a sudden you have like there is an advisory committee who decides what goes on the schedule, and those people have conflicts of interest. They either own patents in vaccines themselves, or they directly have business relationships or very recent business relationships with industry. In other words, with with GlaxoSmithKline, with Johnson & Johnson, with Sanofi, with Pfizer, with Moderna, and they benefit from that. And so the idea that people who can financially benefit somehow should be allowed to make medical decisions and recommendations, which were actually mandated into federal workers. Thankfully, our court system finally did come up to the point where they did protect workers. And now they are like New York public employees had to be given their jobs back with back pay. Well, what about the ones who had vaccine injuries? They should also be able to sue the state. And I believe they should lower the veil. So the only way to get industry to really moderate itself, which is just motivated by profit, is to go after them and make them liable. And I believe criminal liability where they made criminal decisions. So but there are things that were learned from this, is that we learned that the individual rights of individual people, children, employees, if there is risk, there must be choice, or you don't have freedom.
Yes.
And that comes down to the individual, not the state to decide. And then, so with some of the things that
and Rob, to interrupt you, that the Bill of Rights, the so-called the privileges that are granted by God, in many people's point of view, needs its most astute protection during times when they are contemplated that they might need to be restricted. That's when they need to be, just like free speech needs to be defended the most, the speech that you hate the most needs to be the most defended.
Exactly. Well, what Dr. Drew is mentioning for the listeners out there is that the founders, when they wrote the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, they at that time, there were plagues during the time of the Revolutionary War, but there was never anything put into place that superseded the Bill of Rights. In other words,
Right.
there's no circumstance where we go, okay, you have free speech except during this time. You have the
Right.
right to assemble except during these specific times of emergency.
Right.
There is nothing that supersedes that. However, it is just a piece of paper. We have learned that unless it is supported by the states, which thankfully we have a republic and not a democracy, which is a tyranny of the majority, or can be a tyranny of majority. They knew that we had to break up and give certain things like health rights to the states. It's up to the states. So when Trump originally shut things down on March 13th of 2020, it really was up to the states to decide, and the states did decide. So that division of powers is very important. So we have to remember that some of the things that were learned and some of the cats that were out of the bag was some things were made up. Like you mentioned, I'm glad that came out. I didn't listen to the whole testimony of Fauci.
The 6 feet thing was, he finally admitted, they go, where'd that come from? He goes, I don't know. It was just sort of all of a sudden it was there. I was like, wow, that is such an insane thing to say.
Isn't it incredible,
but okay.
though? Because
I've been being vilified. I'm interviewing Paul Alexander tomorrow. He was there when the 6 feet was invented.
Wow.
They were trying to decide between 3 feet and 60 feet. And in reality, now that we know it's an aerosol virus, it's pure aerosol, not spit, not fluid, aerosol. 30 to 60 feet would have been more appropriate. But who's going to comply with that?
Fauci did say, and I will only give him credit in this regard, he did say that in the nasal phalanx, up in your nose, that's where the bacteria grows. That's where the virus grow. And so there are things that people can do. And like my family, the Lapids, Dr. Lapid, Renee Lapid, and the Maria Lapid, who's a professor of nursing, has a nursing school. What they would do is they would rinse out the nasal phalanx of the seniors so that it lowers, because every time you swallow, then the viral load accumulates. So when you can knock
nasal
out,
lavage was an excellent instrument. There was saline. We were actually advertising a betadine swab that was really looking good. You were not allowed to talk about it.
I know,
it's
isn't that
so
crazy?
weird. You weren't allowed to talk about monoclonal antibodies. You weren't allowed to talk. It was just freaking, the craziness was beyond understanding.
Right. And the stuff that we had learned in Israel was not allowed to be applied to the United States when they were the first ones that were mass vaccinated. In the same way that you had a country like Bangladesh who were so poor they couldn't even afford the cheapest of medications, which is actually the greatest, well, I should say the greatest number has been given out in the history of medicine, I believe, and I'd love for anybody to prove me wrong, was ivermectin. These people couldn't even afford ivermectin. So they went to the next level, which was cleaning out the nasal phalanx and rinsing, and that seemed to slow down the incredible spread. And one of the things that
there were
so
many things
was, and the cat was out of the bag, and it was from Fauci, because they did say, because everybody's system is different. And so my daughter was tested because I have allergies. I'm allergic to everything. That's my Jewish heritage on my dad's side. Thank you. And that those, the inbred Ashkenazi Jews, thank you.
Ashkenazi?
And they passed that they're allergic to everything. But my daughter was tested for cats and for what I'm allergic to, grass and weeds and trees. She tested negative for those. But at the same time, she's absolutely still allergic to it because it doesn't always show. And that was when the cat was out of the bag. And I'll just say this as a non-doctor, but they did say that just because you have antibodies doesn't mean you're protected. That's why they said, that's why you still need the shot. And then they also said this, just because the people who are vaccinated, they don't have the antibodies, that doesn't mean you're not protected. So that the cat's out of the bag. Science does have its limitations. We don't know exactly what it is. We do know that
biology is a giant probability equation.
Healthy children, have an immune system that is on fire. That is extremely powerful, the most powerful time in their life. And that's why cancer patients among children recover incredibly at a higher rate than older people because that immune system is so strong. So as we have learned through this, it's important to know that we have to put people on notice that there has to be some there has to be some culpability for people who did decisions knowingly wrong.
Well, Rob, here's my concern, though. My concern is I think it's more important. I welcome your input. And you can correct me on this, but it seems to me the priority has got to be figuring out really what happened here, and putting things in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. The actual punishing people. If we threaten people with punishment, we'll never get to the bottom of these things because they will fight too hard. They'll fight to continue to obfuscate things.
Well,
we already see them doing it. Go ahead.
I am for amnesty. I am for amnesty for everyone, including Fauci. 100% amnesty. However, just like in South Africa, there needs to be a hearing where people confess what they know in an area where they know that they will have complete immunity.
It'd be great.
And then I will even the head of Pfizer. If you can say, listen, we knew early, and we knew that we lied, or it was a lie of omission.
Oh my God! Could you imagine the healing that could go on if we allowed that to happen?
And I'll confess and apologize for Deuce too.
Yeah,
I'll do the same thing.
And you're very funny. And we'd be able to heal and look, and the bright light, the sunshine would be so almost blinding that people would not be able to turn away because they'd no longer have all these stories about what happened. We'd just have the facts, and it would be out. No doubt there'd be some outrageous stuff, and we just correct it. We got to correct it. But
it would be. That's the great disinfectant: light and freedom and truth.
Yep.
Now,
how dare you? Would you say drink bleach? Did you mean drink? Are you saying put a disinfectant in somebody? What are you talking about?
I know, isn't that horrible? But they're still saying it. They even said it about me recently. Newsweek. Newsweek was just like a blog. It doesn't even exist anymore as a publication. But they're still calling ivermectin horse paste. Here's what we have to put safeguards in place. And unfortunately, Drew, nothing has changed. It is a system that is, and there's a treaty going in through the WHO that'll be voted on in May.
Oh my God.
We're talking about an even worse thing is that not only has nothing been put in place to safeguard us again, there is an even greater threat to our sovereignty and every country's sovereignty by now having an unelected organization that has completely been captured by industry and by somebody like Bill Gates, one individual multi-billion.
Well, and the Chinese Communist Party.
And the Chinese Communist Party, which exactly putting in these, which is actually to go back to what started the lockdowns was the Chinese Communist Party funded the college. God, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting now.
It was worse than that. I want you to read a book called Snake Oil Science.
Snake Oil.
Was that Michael Singer? Yeah, you'll like it. It's really chronic. He put together exactly what happened, and you'll be shocked at how hoodwinked everyone around the world became.
So, but if we can demand from our politicians that we put in safeguards, and that's why I like Bobby Kennedy, and I hope Robert Kennedy Jr. gets so successful in this election, wins or loses, that these things have to be discussed. And some of these safeguards will be put into place. And people have to demand it. People have to step up, and they have to see and not just pretend this hasn't happened, because there is a chance that there's a higher chance that they will try this again and be more successful next time, because next time they'll know where the weak links are. And it was podcasts, and it was things that, like what happened in the former Soviet Union, is people realize now in America to not trust the mainstream media because it has been captured by industry. 85% of all ads are now pharmaceutical products. And so that is just way too much power for any industry to have. And so, and there's, it's the number one donor for campaigns for not just federal elected officials, but for our state officials. So we just need to wake up. Let's shine a light. Let's have you start the amnesty, Drew. Tell people, and I'll come.
Okay, beautiful. And should it come around again, then it becomes important to say no. You have rights. You need to stand up for them. Rob, I appreciate you dealing with the patience of our technical issues today. I've got to wrap up early. I've got to run across town and do something. But
it's always a pleasure.
It's fun to talk to you, my friend.
Right.
And if you guys are. if you guys are, she's sitting right over here. If you guys are in LA, please let us know.
We'll see. I'd love it. Okay.
Yeah. Make
say
sure
hi to
we
Patricia.
have time with you.
Patricia, come say hi to Dr. Drew.
Patricia, hey, I can't tell if she's on this. Hey there, listen, we miss you guys. We want to see you again, and make sure Rob gets back, real Rob back in production. I want to see you back on TV.
Okay.
I need you more Patricia on television.
We're going to call it Real Patricia this time.
Okay, I'm good. Perfect. Maybe that'll sell better. So, fantastic.
Right.
Love you, Drew.
Well, good to see you.
Bye.
And Rob, again, thank you. The book,
you.
the movie is Daddy Daughter Trip. Go on Amazon. What else? Get follow him on Twitter. What else do you want people to do? There you go. All right, we'll be with Paul Alexander tomorrow. Rob, thank you so much. And for everyone else, sorry we had to cut it a little short today, but I have to run across town, and we had a technical blowout today that we will, I promise, remedy by tomorrow. So we'll see you tomorrow with Dr. Paul Alexander. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.